Good evening and welcome to Mountain Bears. I'm Aeson, and of course, tonight is the Cubby with Moses. Tacky Joe, how are you, darlings?
I'm doing well. How are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, oh, there's Brenda. Okay.
Hey, Brenda.
Trying to get my head together, get some things balanced before the weekend gets here.
Yes.
Yeah. Getting up to some berry fun.
Getting up to some berry fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bear fun.
Bear fun. It's very funny.
Exactly.
I almost can't bear it.
I normally can't either, honey. That's when you just grin. Well, I thought that I've been saying we live in North Carolina.
Yeah, you have been saying that for a while now. It's like we have North Carolina weather. It's like I just moved from North Carolina and brought the weather with me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we've been moved to Kansas, though, now.
Yes, Toto. Yes, we have.
Wicked witch.
Do what now?
I'll keep the water away from you.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but it's now been confirmed that a tornado did touch down in Hico, West Virginia. For those not familiar with the map, but you're kind of familiar with the idea of where Aeson is, that's about 22 minutes away.
Yep, and more importantly, a good long distance from where tornadoes normally touch down.
Yeah.
Like we don't typically do windy. Well, yay for the Appalachian Mountains. We typically, most funnel cloud based storms tend to get shredded.
Yes.
Trying to jump the mountain range. So we typically, like, we may see them, it doesn't really affect us.
Right.
So we don't see too many of those. So it is an event when they occurred because we are not prepped for them.
No.
We don't build for tornado.
No, we don't.
Like, we don't strap structures down like they do in tornado country so that it doesn't get picked up and slung in the air. Yeah. Right. We don't strap. Generally speaking, we don't.
Right.
Like, we just, the assassins failed. They missed us. And, like, he was an easy target.
Right.
Because, Ninja Turtle that he isn't, was on his back like one, working on the car in the front yard when the storm started.
Yes. I'm standing away and I look up and I'm like, oh God, it's gonna rain. Stand back on. The next thing I know, I'm in a drowning situation.
And his first thought was that he was so sweet that he needed to get indoors. Put up the car window.
I didn't even remember it was down, okay? Did you not see the movie? Witches do not get wet. Unless we have to. So anyhow.
Dunk the witch.
Then we went through the longest power going out ever.
Yeah, we had a very long power outage. He's outside doing all this. I'm inside on the talking to a client, trying to remote into their system, and can't, because like the power goes off the first time and flickers back on. I give it a minute, and it's okay. And literally, right as it connected to the system, the power went out again.
Right.
And stayed out.
Right.
And it was like, oh. So anyway, finished troubleshooting on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a drowned rat of a husband.
Cursing. Not caring that he's on the phone, still cursing as I walk in the door.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm having a whole moment going, well, at least it's a client that already knows you.
Yep. She knows I got a mouth. She's heard it.
I'm sorry. I have a short list of clients that's like, oh no, I don't have time to explain this. Like, I would just have to end the call and be like, I'm sorry, we're having a severe weather event. Bye.
Right.
Instead, I'm on the phone with this client going, oh, that's a tornado warning. Oh, that's a
That's a tornado watch. We went from warning to watch.
Well, no. The two, because emergency alert system activate.
Right.
No, it was one alert that there was a tornado warning is what I got. And then the second warning was severe thunderstorm event, 80 mile per hour winds.
Right.
And I'm just like, okay.
Right.
It's like seek shelter, and I'm like, well, I'm inside.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just generally going I think we're already in the best possible place in the house.
Right.
Like,
well, technically, since we have to talk about this, the best possible place in this house is our bedroom.
I would have thought it would have been in the bathroom. Exterior wall, no windows.
No exterior walls, no windows.
I thought it was you wanted at least one exterior wall.
No.
Because I thought roofs normally collapse down and in.
No.
Okay. Meanwhile, I love the fact that Brenda originally said the Asians failed. They missed you. It's totally different the experience. I don't know. I don't plan to live through apocalyptic events. Like, take me out first. I want to be in the opening credits. What? It's just a little rat. Like, that's it. That's my whole cameo.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, Brenda agrees. No exterior walls. Okay, well, my bad.
Yep. So we should have just slept through it.
Basically.
Anyhow. So that was the weird
point
weather.
that no, really, he can sleep through a tornado.
Give me enough situations. So looking at this, it looks like Heiko lost 13 homes, which is a large amount of homes, and one gas station that I believe is there's only two others in that area is now partially rubble.
Oh dear. Yeah, that's we hate that for Heiko, by the way.
Yeah, because it's a small little town. Like Gaza, I don't even think there's a stoplight.
Well, and the problem we have with a lot of things in West Virginia in small towns is that sometimes they just don't get rebuilt. Sometimes the they get operated till they die.
Right.
And then in a situation like this, the business owner just cashes the insurance check.
Right.
And walks away.
Right. I don't think Bandy's will, because they've been a staple within the community. But no, about 70 people were dishomed into U-Haul trailers, family members' houses, or storage units.
Jesus, into U-Haul trailers?
Yeah, moving their stuff into U-Haul trailers to get the hell out of here.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I hate to take this opinion, but it's kind of true about West Virginia. Sometimes you're a naturally occurring disaster away from getting the fuck out and having a decent life.
Right.
And that's I really hate that for communities. I really hate
Right.
that as a mindset.
Right.
But for some people, it's true.
Right.
Like they legitimately end up losing everything, and
Right.
this is their one opportunity to get out.
Right.
You're detached from everything, literally and figuratively.
Right.
And so now you have the opportunity to move elsewhere and do anything different.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that's been an improvement.
Right. And, so moving on to even more wilder news.
Yeah. Yeah. A 4.8 magnitude earthquake recorded in New Jersey that shook residents in surrounding states and New York City on Friday morning was one of the strongest in state history. The trembler was reported about 5 miles north of White House Station, New Jersey, at about 10:23 a.m. Friday, according to the United States Geological Survey. The epicenter was about 45 miles from New York City, where residents reported shaking furniture and floors. Quote, earthquakes in this region are uncommon, but not unexpected. It's likely people near the epicenter are going to feel aftershocks for this earthquake in the magnitude 2 to 3 range, and there's a small chance there can be an earthquake as large or larger following an earthquake like this. Paul Earle, a seismologist at the USGS Earthquake Hazards Program, told reporters, in terms of our operations, this is a routine earthquake. Immediately, we knew this would be of high interest and important to people who don't feel earthquakes a lot.
Right.
So, yeah, people reported feeling the shaking as far north as Maine and as far south as Norfolk, Virginia, following the quake, according to the USGS. Scientists said those in the affected area should listen to local emergency officials and be prepared to seek cover if aftershocks occur. If you feel
Right.
shaking, drop cover and hold, Earl said. Again, I thought the correct answer was wander around in circles in your home going, was that a fucking earthquake?
Yeah. No.
No.
But there was 39 earthquakes today.
Oh, good grief.
The biggest being in New York.
That's a weird sentence. Like, New York, you beat out California for the biggest earthquake of the day. How's that make you feel?
Well, this is
Because
an old
that's
fault.
not normal.
No, well, this is the old Appalachian fault line.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's a tough
we
thing.
get earthquakes.
Yeah, like people don't really seem to get this. Like, you don't get mountains out of nothing.
Right.
Like, this used to be a seabed.
Mm-hmm.
Two plates collided and got raised a few thousand feet in the air. That's how you form a mountain range.
Right.
Like, you take land that was flat and even, you slam it together, and you push it up.
Right. But, here's the thing, though. This is weirdy weather.
Oh, yes. So Shannon remembers when we had one in Charleston years ago. My mama's house shook, and I was that an earthquake? And sat on the porch trying to decide if it was an earthquake or a hard gust of wind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, again, this is not earthquake country. I mean, it's not that we never.
Right.
It's that it's so infrequent.
Right.
That, like, we're not prepped for this.
Well, West Virginia's had 12 quakes of magnitude since 2023. They're normally about 2 to up to 3.8. One quake was above at 311, which is a little higher. So yeah, we can have earthquakes here. But what they're saying is this is a reactivated fault line.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's long been theorized that we're potentially sitting on top of a volcano.
Yeah.
That fundamentally, you start looking at fault lines and mountain ranges. Typically, there's a volcano there somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a matter of time.
It's the Republicans' fault.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Don't name airports after Trump.
No,
Don't
name
even
prisons.
think about naming. Do what now?
Name prisons.
Name prisons.
Which we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, side note, that's a real story. Oh, so Brenda says, we thought a big truck backed into our building at work happened before until we noticed some poles outside swaying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd do it.
Right.
Well, the good news is no major disruptions or damage have been reported in New Jersey or New York. And they have activated the State Emergency Operations Center. Do not call 911 unless you have an actual emergency, said New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. President Biden spoke with Murphy about the earthquake, and the White House is monitoring the situation. So, yeah.
They got a lot to monitor right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm... especially since it was a 4.8. Because like the USGS is saying, is sometimes that's the earthquake
right
before the earthquake.
Right.
And sometimes it's just the earthquake.
Right.
So like it can go either way. You may have a couple post tremors, or you may be gearing up for a bigger one.
True. Now, I think there's two procedures I don't think you want to happen during an earthquake. USA Today is covering one of them. Do you want to take a guess at what it is?
Oh, two procedures?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think you want to be in a hospital having any kind of brain surgery.
No, or vasectomies.
I mean, they do knock guys out for that, unlike childbirth.
No, they just give you a local.
Still, they give you something.
Yeah.
Like that epidural doesn't normally hit women. It's like, that's cute. It's either too early or too late.
Now, understand that I have an opinion that's not going to be a popular one when it comes to childbirth. I don't understand why they don't use ethanol anymore. Knock her out, wake her up when the baby's done.
Ether. Don't use ethanol ever.
Okay. A little bit of ether, knock her out. She'll feel better. The baby gets born more pleasantly.
I think it's one of those things that may harm child.
Not really.
And I think it may also reduce your clotting ability, but I could
be wrong. Oh, Brenda's got a stronger opinion than I do.
Make us up when they hit 18.
Exactly.
Well, that's a vote for the ethanol. No. So why did we stop?
Because we were discussing having, whether they give them a local or not doing a vasectomy. Because according to the USA Today, the surgeon kind of froze, and we all kind of seemed a bit confused. Blank said, even when the surgeon said, that's got to be an earthquake, I thought he was joking. Luckily, X's doctor was able to resume the procedure after a brief pause, and the rest went off without a hitch. Now recovering at home. It's an experience no one involved will forget, especially because of his social media post indicated it since it has gone viral. His wife has took it as a clear sign, an obvious sign that they should not have any more children.
That's one way to take it. I like, You know they're gonna be mad if that reverses.
Uh-huh. Well, because he's gonna go back in 7 days and see it. See if
Do
it
what?
took. He's gonna go back in 7 days and see if it took.
Well, and also that's kind of an important thing with vasectomy is it's not just the 7 days. I think there's also a 3-month appointment, and then you have to have that revalidated every couple of years because it is a reversing, like self-reversing surgery for some people.
Mm-hmm.
That it will undo itself every once in a while.
Right.
And surprise, baby. What do you mean I'm pregnant? I can't get pregnant. Or more importantly, in this case, what do you mean it's mine? It can't be mine.
Right.
Ooh, nature's a funny thing. Sometimes, so yeah, you do have to have it revalidated every couple of years, like
right.
just to make sure. Because otherwise, sometimes you find out it was not the solution you thought it was.
Exactly. Sometimes it doesn't work. You know, it's like people think that women can have babies after 45. I hate to tell you, there's a lady that was 68 when giving natural birth.
Yeah. Well, we have some very strong ideas, and I think sometimes there's a conflation between the idea that, well, most women go through menopause
right.
between this age and this age.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, cool. And I, no,
yeah,
not always. Like, and sometimes if you have like certain medical conditions, you may not have a good clear picture there of like your fertility.
Right.
Because there are women that do have irregular periods and periods that are so light as to be unnoticeable. Usually to the ire of most of their female friends. That no. And sometimes you do go through a hormonal thing that is just a hormonal thing. It is not menopause. So if you run around thinking it's menopause and that, oh God, your childbearing years are over, without validating that.
Right.
Surprise.
Right.
Like it does happen. It's not, I wouldn't necessarily call it common.
Right.
But it does happen. It's why it's really important if you think you are going through menopause, do see your doctor. It's not necessarily a medical emergency.
Right.
But it is certainly a medical event that you need to be aware of and sure of.
Right.
Especially if you discontinue birth control.
Right.
So just saying. Yeah.
Okay, I'm throwing one in here.
Always found a story to throw in. This is going to be good. Oh, there it is. Oh, so condemned inmate could face surgery without anesthesia if good vein is elusive, lawyers say. Missouri's execution protocol allows for surgery without anesthesia if the typical process of finding a suitable vein to inject the lethal drug doesn't work. Lawyers for a death row inmate say in an appeal aimed at sparing his life. Brian Dorsey, 52, is scheduled for execution Tuesday for killing his cousin and her husband at their Central Missouri home in 2006. His attorneys are seeking clemency from Governor Mike Parson and have several appeals pending. A federal court appeal focuses on how Missouri injects the fatal dose of pentobarbital, The written protocol calls for insertion of primary and secondary intravenous lines, but it offers no guidance on how far the execution team can go in finding a suitable vein, leaving open the possibility of an invasive cut-down procedure, Dorsey's attorneys say. The procedure involves an incision that could be several inches wide and several inches deep. Forceps are used to tear tissue away from a vein that becomes the injection point. It's surgery, said Aaron Brenner, a federal public defender and one of the attorneys representing Dorsey. It would be surgery without anesthesia. Brenner said Dorsey faces a higher than normal risk of needing a cut down because he is obese. His veins also might be compromised because he is diabetic and a former IV drug user. A spokesperson for Attorney General Andrew Bailey didn't comment, but referred to the state's response to the appeal. Cut-down procedures are rarely, if ever, used under Missouri's execution protocol, the response stated. And in the event that a cut-down procedure were necessary, medical personnel have access to pain-relieving medications. Medication would be inadequate if the procedure is necessary. Dorsey should receive a local anesthetic, said Megan Crane, another attorney for him. It's extremely painful, Crane said. Even if given an oral pain relief or an opioid, that will not relieve the pain. Lawyers for Dorsey say the use of the surgical procedure would violate his constitutional guarantee against cruel and unusual punishment and also his right to religious freedom because it would prevent him from having meaningful interaction with his spiritual advisor, including the administration of last rites. The issue is theoretical. In Idaho, the scheduled execution of serial killer Thomas Eugene Creech in February was halted after a medical team unsuccessfully tried 8 times to establish an IV. It is unclear whether, when, or how the state might try again to execute him. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was sitting here originally kind of going, this sounds like crap.
Right.
But it seems like with that this is one of those things that they wrote the protocol and didn't really branch it out into like what happens if.
Right.
Like, what if you can't establish 2 IV lines? What if you can't find a vein? What do you do? You know, that we know what medically occurs, but how do you manage this, and how do you manage this in a way that's functional for him?
Right. And, you know, I understand, you know, I'm of 2 minds here.
Okay.
I'm of mind one of, why are we doing this? Rope is cheap. Wood is cheap. Okay. The other one is, why do a cut down? There's no reason you can't find a vein on somebody's body.
I think this is potentially, like, it's not that it couldn't happen.
Right.
But I do think it's a bit of a stretch.
Right.
That it would happen. But it does bring up the point that, like, this starts getting into an area that if this is on the table,
right,
and not a, you know, verboten procedure,
right,
then what stops them from doing it? One, like, you're just trying to execute him, and I think sometimes that's the mindset, is like, you know, how come is
right.
Where do you draw the line for an execution when the end result is death?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think in some instances there's a lot of discomfort, maybe, I don't know the right word to use here, in the mindset that these are medical professionals that are supposed to be not doing harm, that are fundamentally contributing to harm.
Well,
Um,
they're fundamentally doing a lot less harm than could be done. They're fundamentally, you know, there's a lot of things that could be done here. There's a lot of other methods that have been developed over the eons and centuries.
well, but it still comes down to if you're a nurse in a nursing home and some 90-year-old who's tired of living and in an excruciating pain begs you to kill them, that's illegal.
Unless it's
You
in,
go to
yeah,
jail for that. We don't like, and as a society, even though we understand the emotional toll, that's still murder.
right,
But when we turn around and need medical professionals to carry out the death penalty,
right,
um, we get into an interesting ethical situation there.
right.
Is that fundamentally you're utilizing a profession in which, in any other instance,
Hmm.
you do something that causes intentionally the
Right.
death of another, you go to jail.
Yeah, but you bring up a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Euthanasia.
Uh-huh.
Many states have the death penalty. Unfortunately, there's only, I believe, one state in the U.S. you can die with dignity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and the wild part is that like, it's weird. Our need for justice
Hmm.
can override our like compassion for others.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you look at the
Right.
two situations, like, 90-year-old cancer patient hanging on by a thread in excruciating pain. I'm creating a
Right.
small patient. Like, the most sympathetic human being in the world that's like, just kill me now.
Right.
Um, you do that and you go to prison. Like,
Right.
if you're a registered nurse, if you're a family member, whatever, you're gonna go to
Right.
jail. It's murder.
Right.
But then we turn around, and when it comes to execution, the
Hmm.
death penalty, um, somehow we abandon that thought process and go like, we don't care, kill them,
Right.
whatever you got to do.
Right. I mean, because all he has to do is dehydrate himself, and they're going to have a hard time finding a vein. Point blank.
Or quite frankly, with the medical conditions he has,
Right.
like former IV drug user, diabetic,
Right.
and obese.
Right.
That's a 1, 2, 3 combo.
Hmm.
Depending upon if he's gained weight while in prison, depending upon if he's been, if his diabetes has been properly managed while he's been in prison, depending upon, just the fact that he was an IV drug
Right.
user, and that leads to a lot of vein issues.
Right. Which I need to correct something. Other
Okay.
states have updated their dying with dignity policies. Oregon, Washington, Montana, Vermont, California, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Hawaii, New Jersey, Maine, and New Mexico.
Okay. So we have a few states.
Right. Where, your 80-year-old grandmother at the end of her cancer battle that no pain medicine is working to touch because they introduced pain high dose opioids beforehand has options. But they're worried about this guy, and they're challenging this death thing over a cut down procedure, which could be solved really easy. They could put him to sleep and put in a PICC line. Guaranteed it's going in.
Mhm.
No, boom, done.
But do they have the authority to do it? Because I think that's fundamentally what's being
Right.
challenged. Is there's a protocol
Mm-hmm.
of what the death penalty means in Missouri.
Right.
I doubt it includes scheduled surgery for a PICC line.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's anywhere in the
Right.
policy. Like, there's no failover to pick line.
Right.
And so this, it's a potential. It's probably not going to be anyone in the room's first choice.
Right.
Like we'll try everything. Like, you know, here's some Gatorade.
Right.
Knock yourself out. You know, Pedialyte, whatever. Just like fluid him up.
Exactly.
To try to hit a vein. I don't want to necessarily. Yes, I'm sure he could dehydrate himself and make this impossible.
Right.
Even without doing that, there's also a possibility that while a prisoner, there may be a very well-documented medical history here.
Mm-hmm.
He's continuously been a difficult stick.
Right.
Like, and that has nothing to do with like choosing and opting and trying
Right.
to be a difficult stick.
Right.
But just a known history. Some people are.
Right.
And if we assume best light here,
Right.
which is what I'm trying to do, it may turn into more of a reality than this appeal would suggest.
Right.
Like, honest, like, sincerely, they're just going for clemency, one way or another.
Right.
And I think the cut down procedure is probably being used as a shock and awe.
Right. And a last resort.
Well, I think it would probably not even be the last resort in that moment. I think most medical professionals are going to go, this isn't possible today.
Right.
But does the protocol say that? Like, at what point are they supposed to stop? And more to the point, if you're trying to avoid that medical procedure, but the protocol doesn't specify at what point you stop, what then prevents, you know, this human pincushion situation where you just keep trying to stick him?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and this is where we get into the cruel and unusual.
Right.
Like, yes, it's the death penalty. We know the end result is death.
Right.
The general theory is that this should not look like the work of a demented serial killer.
Right.
This is supposed to be a straightforward near medical procedure. That quietly and calmly terminates life.
Right.
Not unlike what you would most likely be looking for our straw grandma.
Right.
Now, there's many that argue that's not fair. That's not, you know, he didn't get what he deserved, whatever. Honestly, I think it's the only option you're going to ever get on a world that can compromise down to allowable death penalty.
Right.
Is that, okay, we're going to do this, but we're going to do it humanely, ethically, gently.
Right.
And you can argue that that's not what someone deserves, depending upon their crime. All you want to, but the other option was, we're not going to have a death penalty.
Right.
Like, we're not going to turn this into, let's throw axes at the murderer until one of them kills him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because if we're going to not do this, you know, ethically, humanely, gently, then everything's on the table.
Right.
Like, we can do all kinds of horrible things to someone until they die.
Right.
And argumentatively, some of them may be justified.
Right.
But that fundamentally starts getting into the ugliness of, at what point does the warden become necessary, or at what point does it end up that the warden is no better than the prisoner?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the executioner's no better than the prisoner. because some of this could get really sick and twisted really quick.
Right. Well, and I also think that, there's other ways to do this. Like, they do actually have the gas chamber there as an option.
Mm-hmm.
Go, all right, we can't get your stick, you're going to the chamber.
I mean, again, it doesn't sound like they wrote the protocol that way.
I don't know.
And that's fundamentally the problem.
Yeah, well, the problem is that he was given the option to choose.
A fair number of states do that, though.
Yep.
Is choose the manner of your death.
Right.
And there's problems with all of them. It doesn't really matter what you choose.
Right.
Like there's reasons that we had moratorium on execution. And it's because all of them fundamentally have flaws.
Right.
Like, not everyone who gets put in the gas chamber dies. Not everyone who gets electrocuted dies. Not everyone who's injected is, one, easily injectable, and two, dies.
Right.
Like, there are multiple situations that can occur in each.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, what that means is you don't die.
Mm-hmm.
And what's worse is some of the results of those will basically leave you in a very cruel prison of your own body.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a fair amount of brain damage that goes with an improper gas chamber.
Right.
There's a fair amount of brain damage and other issues that go with improper injection.
Right.
And as for old Sparky, there are several instances in which I don't know who got tortured more.
Mm-hmm.
The person they were attempting to electrocute or the viewing room audience.
Right.
Because when that goes wrong,
mm-hmm.
It's quite graphic.
Right.
Like, it's what it's supposed to be and what it becomes are very different things.
Exactly. But at the same time, I don't know. I think we had it right to begin with, and they keep messing it up. Because it got more technically advanced.
Well, but again, that's because every manner in which they can potentially execute you,
mm-hmm.
there's instances in which it's failed.
Right.
Death by hanging, if you get that rope length wrong.
Mm-hmm. It's 13 and a half foot, everyone.
Not necessarily. That's a rope length by height.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it wrong,
mm-hmm.
or anything goes wrong on the way down,
mm-hmm.
You may permanently paralyze them, but you won't kill them.
Right. But at the same time, it's like, if you can't do intravenous, then have the pill option. Obviously there's a pill option. All these other states have all the medication. You get all the whatever the package of pills are, and you go to sleep.
Again, I don't. One, that's if Missouri offers that method, and two, if that's even. Again, he has the right to choose his manner of death. We can disagree with the fact that, like, he chose the worst possible one for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we can all agree for that.
Mm-hmm.
That this is. He has many reasons why this is not going to be the best way to go
right.
for him. The fact that he's using it to try to get clemency doesn't surprise me.
Right.
Nor do I think it does anyone else. It's
Right.
just the last minute aggravation.
Right.
Of like, seriously, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I think it's a novel approach.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also the ire that it draws, is that, like, oh, just as we think we have all our bases covered.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
Someone has found a new way to take apart death penalty.
The death penalty and put off your ultimate punishment. All right, guys, let's take a break. We're going to come back and talk about a new time zone that I guess I'm going to have to get a clock for.
For who? Excuse me.
So we'll be right back.
All right.
Are you ready for an enchanting journey of self-discovery and empowerment? Dive into the mystical world of Wicca with our courses guided by Lord Aeson Knight. Unveil Wicca's secrets, explore fundamental principles, and delve into essential topics like deity relationships and the purpose of rituals. Aeson Knight, a third-degree high priest, shares his wisdom through life coaching lessons, guiding you towards a brighter future. Step into the inner circle of enlightenment. Enroll today to embark on a journey toward a more empowered you. Click the link to take your first step into the magical circle.
Ready to join the Psychic Coffee Shop Network? By becoming our patron, you'll unlock exclusive content from Aeson Knight, host of the Psychic Coffee Shop podcast and co-host of the Mountain Bears podcast, alongside the tech-savvy Techie Joe. Choose from subscription options ranging from Tall $1, Grande $5, to Venti $10 per month, supporting us in covering production costs and beyond. Depending on your subscription level, enjoy discounts on private readings, free access to classes and special events, behind-the-scenes extras, and the chance to participate in station meetings. Plus, you'll get early access to new content and the opportunity to shape future topics. We'll acknowledge your support in the credits of our videos. Don't wait. Brew some magic and join us today as a valued member. Link in the show description. Aeson Knight, your gateway to a transformed life. In a world where anyone can claim to be a life coach, Aeson stands out as a true professional with the skills and qualifications to guide you on your journey to success. So why invest in a personal life coach? Let's explore the game-changing benefits Aeson brings to the table. Ever find it hard to stay committed to change on your own? Aeson's expertise ensures you stay on track. With him as your coach, that internal drive kicks in, motivating you to keep your promises and achieve your goals. Making a change is tough, but Aeson makes it 1,000 times easier. He's your unwavering support, guiding you through challenges, pushing you beyond your limits, and believing in you even when you doubt yourself. Friends are great, but they may not always want to see you succeed. Aeson, on the other hand, is dedicated solely to your success. He removes negativity and limiting beliefs, giving you the tailored support you need. Forget endless hours deciphering advice from books and videos. Aeson is your shortcut to effective change. He saves you time and money by offering personalized attention, guiding you toward the tools and lessons that will truly work for you. Ready for a better tomorrow? Book your discovery call with Aeson Knight now. Take the first step toward the life you've always dreamed of. Aeson Knight, your partner in transformation. Start your journey today.
All right, welcome back.
Yes.
So we're getting a new time zone, but it's not on this planet.
It is not. It's not even on a planet.
No.
Planetary body.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the moon could soon get its own time zone. The White House is directing NASA to work with other government agencies to develop a lunar-based time system called Coordinated Lunar Time, abbreviated as LTC. The Biden administration has given the space agency until the end of 2026 to hammer out the new system. According to a Tuesday memo from the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, the goal is to create a standard time measurement that will help coordinate efforts as humanity returns to the moon for exploration and economic development. The reality of such developments is not far off, with Intuitive Machines' Odysseus lander touching down on the moon earlier this year, and NASA planning a manned landing in 2026. Over the next decade, the United States will work with allies and partners to return humans to the moon and develop capabilities to enable an enduring presence. The White House memo said. It added knowledge of time and distant operating regimes is fundamental to the scientific discovery, economic development, and international collaboration that form the basis of U.S. leadership in space. Oh, so why does the moon need its own time system? Time on the moon moves differently than it does on Earth, which means that using the terrestrial time system called Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC, wouldn't work. UTC is tracked by the weighted average of hundreds of atomic clocks across the planet, with so-called leap seconds periodically added to keep it aligned with the planet's solar days. But time on Earth doesn't quite track with lunar time because of relativity, the White House memo noted. In other words, someone on the moon would experience UTC time as distorted, with a terrestrial-based clock appearing to lose 58.7 microseconds each Earth day, the memo added. That may seem like a tiny difference, but the issues could mount when coordinating activities on the moon, such as a spacecraft seeking to dock on the moon or to undertake a data transfer at a specific time. Will other countries use the same lunar time zone? That's the goal. NASA is aiming to create LTC as the international standard through existing standards bodies and among the Artemis Accords signatories, according to the Office of Science and Technology Policy. The Artemis Accords, a pact signed by dozens of nations, sets principles for exploration and development of the moon, Mars, and asteroids. Countries continue to sign the pact, with Uruguay signing in February. Two major nations, China and Russia, have yet to come aboard. So, yeah, meanwhile, what kind of economic development could occur on the moon? The moon could represent a new commercial market in the 2030s and beyond, according to a 2022 NASA report about the Artemis program. Companies are likely to sell services such as transportation between Earth and the moon, as well as explore water extraction and resource mining activities, the report noted. Last year, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency tapped 14 companies to explore commercial activity on the moon, including Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin and Elon Musk's SpaceX.
I could see having a hotel on the moon.
You know, I just start to wonder, though, if maybe this is one of those moments that, like, do we just need to reconfigure time?
I think it needs to have its own time.
Well, but here's the thing, though. We start creating a time zone for the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is we branch out into space and start adding other planetary bodies, because that looks like that's the next goals.
Right. Well, Mars will have its own time zone. Like Mars's time is different than the Earth's time, so they would have to have their own time.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I'm just wondering, at what point do we start to reconsider time itself?
I think that's going to be a little bit.
Like, at what point do we give up the time zone concept?
Mm-hmm.
Except that, like, we have one time, one straight time. We do not base it on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And we figure out how what to base it on.
Right. And I think that that's going to be a different. It's going to have to be a different mindset than what we're currently in, because we're basing everything on what appears to occur here on Earth, in England, GTM time, where time was supposed to began tracking.
Basically.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what we've basically done is we figured out that roughly an Earth day is 24 hours. We've figured out that, that shifts around the world.
Mm-hmm.
We've created different time zones to represent that, and that was cute and all.
Mm-hmm.
I just start to wonder at what point do we care anymore?
Well, I think that's going to probably take us at least getting to Mars, possibly out to the rings of Saturn, before it becomes, okay, we need universal time.
Just one, because I'm waiting for Stardate.
Right.
Like, it
Right.
doesn't really care about day or night. It is a fixed point in time.
Right.
Now, granted, that's going to be a big change.
Right.
Like, it would probably be the largest change if it occurs in our lifetime of our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Like, forget changing time change. We change time.
Right.
And, like, it will probably be an adjustment to the order of magnitude of, like, switching lanes.
Mm-hmm.
Or going from, imperial standard to metric.
Right.
Like, in terms of there's going to be lost generations.
Right.
That are like, I can't get it.
Well, not only that, but we're going to have problems with things like birth certificates.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we necessarily will. Like, we may have to reissue. We may have to translate.
Mm-hmm.
But technically, if you talk about computing time,
right,
we kind of already do this and then translate that backwards,
right,
into actual days, minutes, and seconds.
Right.
Because, like, that's what you get. Like, it's
right.
an interesting experience to find out that time for computers is a integer number.
Right.
Like, it's just it's a number.
Right, but we're going to have to translate a lot of systems. What I mean by that is, like, astrology is going to have to be translated. All the birth certificates, data collection of the centuries will have to be translated.
Yeah, but I'm already wondering how much of that is already being done as we put it in one format,
mm-hmm.
and it translates already.
Right.
Like, would it be easier to just see a clock,
right,
that has that flat information on it, and so that we just learn to tell time by it?
Right.
That we don't care about months and what day of the month it is. You know that events occur
right
at an interval.
Right.
And this is what a year is.
Right.
This is what a month is. This is what a day is.
Right. And it'll be interesting.
Okay.
It'll be interesting. All right, let's talk very quickly about this story. Then we do have some responses to reply back to.
All righty. All right, which one are we going for?
Well, we're going to go for the prison.
Ah, yes. Sorry, I got so caught up in the death penalty one, I forgot about the other one. All right, so House Democrats introduced bill to rename Miami federal prison after Trump.
Right.
After House Republicans introduced legislation to rename an airport outside of Washington, D.C. after former President Donald Trump, a group of House Democrats are now proposing a bill to rename a federal prison in Miami after Trump.
Right.
The legislation, which would rename the Miami Federal Correctional Institution in Florida as the Donald J. Trump Federal Correctional Institution, was officially filed on Wednesday, April 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
I love the clap back.
Right.
Having having an airport named after a president or any figure.
Right.
Like we do this to honor people. Are people honored by having a prison named after them? Do you honor people?
Oh, he will. He'll find some way to capitalize on it.
Will he make it gold? Is that the first
I don't know.
Platform is like they rename the prison after him, and he's going to be like, "We're going to make it gold."
Well, I just wonder if that's where they're figuring he's going to go. Like, that's my opinion.
Like, it'll be the best prison in the country. Make America great again. No, the only time you'll hear me use that phrase.
Right.
It'll be the best prison there is.
Right.
I know prisons. No.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm loving it.
No,
Too much.
It's insane. I hope they do, and then it'll be even funnier if that's where he's sentenced to.
You know, he does like living in buildings with his name on it.
You
might get him to walk right in.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we're starting to get some responses from Spotify. So I'm going to be reading them off, and we're going to be talking back to you guys on Spotify. Hi, Spotify. You can comment down below. There's even possibly a poll for you to take. Mm-hmm. All right. So off of the Psychic Coffee Shop, March 26th edition, we have Lifer Uner 808. I'm also switching back to regular hours up in the mornings, and like regular hours are not getting started towards noon or after. GTMA, New Horizons, bright, shiny, be jealous.
All right. Yeah, the struggle is real, y'all.
It is real. All right. So from a coffee and tea with Aeson and Sandy, Lifer says, but we get clients of all ages who are prone to this behavior. So it's not just those who don't grow up without technology. Some of my clients admit I'm an old fool. Apparently, this is talking about relationship scamming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and here's the thing though, like scams are built around psychological manipulation almost exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
And the language we use around crime really makes this sound like you have a mental failing, that you are incapable, that you are something negative. And that's how, because I see this in a different light on the IT side and clients that get scammed.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It really rips people apart, and it's not that there's anything wrong with them. It's that the scams are good in the sense that they are repetitively trying these psychological manipulations and only keeping the ones that work.
Right.
And then once they find a pattern that works, it just gets better. Like every interaction they have makes it better.
Right.
And so the fact that you went up with a masterful psychological manipulator and lost, that's not an insult.
Right.
Like, that's not an insult.
Right.
That's like showing up with your 2-year-old to play chopsticks against an accomplished pianist. Like, your 2-year-old doesn't suck.
Yeah.
That's an accomplished pianist.
Right.
You know, like, there's no insult there. Like, and I think that's the thing a lot of people, that's the part I hate the most about the scams. It's not even the loss of money. Like, that's one aspect of it, and that part sucks. It's the psychological damage that goes with it that, like, really people have to get with a therapist to unwind that.
Right. And it takes a good bit. All right, so one more. This is from an episode of Aeson and Hazel with Coffee and Tea. Lifer comments: Our research shows post a schedule. Bull. Most of us keep the same anyway. How many hours can we give them? Love this. And I think that's where we were talking about how they want us to post a schedule. They want us to have about 70 hours a week or more. Well, no, they don't want us to have more than this, or
Yeah. Don't have
Yeah.
more than 70 hours a week, but we would like it if you had 10 hours a day.
right.
And it's like, what?
What?
Yeah, and then the fact that, like, I'm sure most of y'all got sold this was a part-time opportunity. This was never supposed to be full-time employment, and now it's more than full-time employment.
Right. Well, you Google it while I talk about it.
Okay.
Because the old ads used to say work from home.
Mhm.
It's like, are you able to read tarot cards? Work from home, part-time, earn full-time income, blah, 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 blah. Set your own scholars, build your own revenue. The sky's the limit. Like,
Yeah, let me see if I can find that in images.
right.
Like, I did find a reference that is cute, but I think it's not quite what you mean. Tatiana Tarot, sales page, join now, tarot card reading course. The average hourly earnings for an online tarot card reader are $25 to $50 an hour, and it's not uncommon to make upwards of $300 a day. However, it all depends on how much time you want to work. Many
Right.
of my former students prefer a more balanced lifestyle and work only 2 to 3 hours per day and find that this is enough income to live the life they want.
Right.
What poverty are they living in?
Where are they living?
Yeah, true. Very true. I mean, it's not that like you don't have good days or one
Right.
client comes through and does a really long phone call
Right.
and we very much hope has the disposable income to do so. Because I've seen some of these. Okay,
Right.
like I've seen the one call that's like $150
Right.
or $300, and it's like that's a really long call. That's he like you're often like a 5-minute wonder in terms of readings, like in out done.
Yes.
So like when you have a random sporadic like $100 call, I'm like, one, they're new, they're really new.
Right.
And two,
Right.
what in the world?
Well, sometimes you just have to do a lot of cleanup, and I'm noticing I'm having to do a lot more cleanup.
Yeah.
Here lately. Like, I'm sorry. I know I haven't been on some days because of, I don't know, tornadoes through the neighborhood. It's kind of hard to read tarot cards.
Yeah.
But, and I just wrote an article about leaving the oven alone. But at the other side of this, we have people who get stuck in this, hour-long call, 2-hour-long calls, and it's like, stop.
Yeah, that's
Wait a
like
minute.
there's rare situations that need a 2-hour call.
Right. There's a reason I don't offer them.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Glassdoor is saying the beginner readers per year revenue is 14,000. Experienced tarot reader is 145,600. And the average is 55,938 per year, with 52,670 base and 3,300 additional.
Right, but I was asking how many hours does the average manager work? Like a salary employee.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the average salaried employee is 45 to 50. And if a job regularly requires more than 50 hours of weekly work, then the role is probably poorly designed, says Indeed.
Well, hello, Indeed. Can you also tell the people that's advertising for your jobs that the role is poorly designed or their metrics are poorly designed? But anyhow.
Yeah.
All right. So is that our last comment within the, I love that we just started getting them. Guys, we love reading them. We will address the comments or questions. I think there was one more. Oh, it was an episode of Aeson and Gwen, Coffee and Tea. And it said, you've been doing this work long enough to know what men online are seeking mostly. And if not, when in this work, just read online in general. Don't act like you're new, girl. I'm not sure if she's pointing that at me or at Gwen, but neither one of us are new, honey.
No, neither are new. Like they know. They know.
Yeah.
They know. Like they're aware.
Yes.
So Gallup also reported that the 40-hour work week is actually longer by 7 hours. Yeah, the currently the average work week is about 47 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. Compared to the like 70-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Not more than 70, but really not less than 70 either, that y'all get hit up with.
Yeah, our research shows. Because they can't say, look, we need you to work these hours.
Which, I mean, honestly, it would probably work better if they could schedule you in shifts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just like, we're going to schedule this.
Right.
Like, so that we don't have a glut of people on at this time and too few people at this time. We're going to do some load leveling.
Right. But they can't do that because then they would appear as employers. And we're not employees because Lord knows, retirement, vacation, days off, paid days, like all those benefits they'd have to create.
I don't know. I think at this point, take the percentages that they're already taking out and give up some of it when they're under demand and go, currently, you will get, 60% or you'll get, a higher rate. Like you'll still charge the same, because here's what happened. He charges like $3.99 a minute, or any of them. Let's say it at $3.99 a minute. That turns into like $1.80 something per minute after all the fees come out. So his gross looks gorgeous. His net takes a beating in that changeover. But if they were to do like an intentional load leveling in which they said, get on, and if you would like to make more money, we are currently offering, an extra 20%. Like you keep the extra 20% of your earning. Like you go up for $3.99, you get like $2.20 instead of $1.80.
Yeah, but then they couldn't pay the light bill or the CEO or, I don't know, buy another fucking company.
Well, but after you demand people on for a while, one of two things is going to happen. Either y'all will all sign out and wait for the demand to come out, in which case you're going to get some nice rate, but I don't think that's going to work very well for very long. Or it load levels back out,
right,
and it goes back to where it was. You still get the $1.82. Everyone's getting the $1.82 at $3.99 a minute, and they now have a homogeneous mixture of employees working at all hours, without creating this forever like feast or famine.
Right. Or, oh, let's just play shotgun and look and see what we've got available. All right. So let's find out if you're an asshole.
All right. Am I the asshole for not watching my brother after warning my parents that I wouldn't do that because babysitting isn't my job? Apologies if I get anything wrong or this sounds confusing. I'm recovering from a bad hangover as I write this. I, 19 female. Okay, red flag there. 19 female with hangover. Girl.
It depends on the state. I mean, the country.
Well, that's true. I have a little brother, 10 male with mild autism. He's old enough to be able to take some responsibility for himself and not have to be constantly hovered over. I've made it clear to my parents that I'm not interested in constantly watching him and have asked them to find a friend or someone to help out every so often so I can live my own life. They brushed me off, unfortunately. Something I should also mention is that I smoke pot. It's legal in my state, and my parents don't seem to be too against it. I am an adult, after all. I keep some hidden in my nightstand and some hidden in my purse. My brother doesn't usually snoop around my room, so I'm not that inclined to go to ridiculous lengths to keep it hidden. I don't want to go to insane lengths looking for it when I want to get high. Well, unfortunately, my brother decided to go snooping through my purse while I was in the shower and found one of my edibles. I was still in the shower by the time my parents got home and saw that he was obviously high and crying. My dad went into my bathroom, practically ripped off the shower curtain, and demanded an explanation as to why my brother was obviously baked. I told him that I was in the shower and unaware of how he even got into my stash. He started crying, saying he just went into my purse to get my phone because he wanted to say hi to our mom. He's not allowed to have a phone or tablet. And then he saw chocolates and couldn't help himself. These chocolates were kept in a bag saying, "Do not eat." By the way, but the wrappers did kind of look like candy. Thankfully, my brother was rightfully punished for snooping through my shit. However, this did not stop my parents from being angry at me too. They were livid that I had edibles in my purse and that I wasn't watching him well enough. He's 10, almost 11, and does not need to be hovered over. He understands "do not touch" means don't touch my shit. He should not have been have to be told to not eat chocolates he finds in someone else's purse. This didn't satisfy my parents enough, unfortunately, and I was told to leave. I'm currently staying at my dealer's house where I usually get some other shit that I take outside my parents' house. I'm not stupid enough to carry non-legal drugs on me or keep them in my house. I'm hoping my parents will let me come back soon, either to stay or so I can get my things and move out. Am I the asshole?
No.
I mean, mild autism, 10 years old. Kid sounds even baked, coherent enough to know that what they did was wrong.
Right.
I don't think the 10-year-old did anything different really than any other, like what I would expect out of any other 10-year-old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like this, like, hi, the kids are all right. Two, like, it's unfortunate the kid got baked, and I'm sure that was a frightening experience for him.
Mm-hmm.
But technically not one that was gonna harm him.
Right.
As long as he didn't like go play in traffic or try to do anything else that he wasn't supposed to do.
Well, and I think we all, Generation Xers, grew up grabbing the wrong bottle of pop or the wrong glass of soda.
You're gonna find some alcohol in mommy's little water bottle.
Exactly.
You know, like mommy needs a little pick me up.
Right.
No, I think that's fair. So again, I like it's not ideal. Like you don't want to intentionally give the 10-year-old like, pot edibles.
Unless it helps him.
Alcohol. Well, I mean, there are some instances of that, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this one.
Right.
And not a medical doctor, and I don't even know that's legal in this state, so not medical advice.
Well, never medical advice. Nothing's medical, but at the same point, I'm like, one, the child stole from the sister. Two, the parents aren't respecting boundaries. Please, I don't want to watch this child.
Yeah, like here's the thing. It looks like it looks like OP is unfortunately stuck in an arrangement she doesn't really know she's in. That basically you can live here, but with that comes the responsibility of watching your brother. I don't think they ever formally said it. I don't think it's one of those things they really anyone went into detail about the arrangement. I think she turned 18 and continued living there, and now she's 19 and has continued to live there, and they've just not talked about it. And I think the fundamental problem is neither in not talking about it, this situation occurs. Because the parents aren't making their rent, that in air quotes, known. And because of that, she doesn't know what rent she has to pay.
Actually, correction, she does pay rent.
Oh, she does pay rent.
Yeah, she is paying them rent. So therefore, she's a tenant.
Okay, so the unfortunate reality is asking you to leave was probably a violation of your landlord-tenant law.
Yeah.
And you have a right to be in that house if you're paying rent. Like that's
and you have a right not to babysit their child, even though it is your brother.
Like I have issues with that concept. Now, granted, take this from the 2-year-old that was walking, talking birth control for my sister. This was my parents' theory. My sister could go anywhere she wanted to go. You have to take the 2-year-old with you. My parents' theory was she can't get up to much with a 2-year-old in tow. They were wrong. But regardless, I was bribable. Animal crackers and Sprite will get you a long way with a toddler. Just so y'all know. So if you plan to like control your teenager with your toddler, doesn't work as great as you think it does. Not that she did anything horrible. I understood. Just saying. We nap too. Like we get bored. All right. We fall asleep. It was 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. I fell asleep. All right. I wasn't working. Like, why did you put me to work at 2? Like, what the hell?
Welcome to the U.S., honey. Child labor is important. Babysit, security is a job.
I know, right? Like, what was I gonna do? Defend her honor? Like, no. I went nappy nap. Park me off to the side. No, I'm not still that cheap. I'm cheap, but I'm not that cheap. I've upgraded slightly. At least a nice dinner. I'll do lots of things for a nice dinner.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
You don't want to know what I'll do for the value menu, but that's another story. Where
you don't eat McDonald's.
Wendy's has a value menu.
You don't eat Wendy's.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I just don't particularly like either of our local Wendy's.
Okay. Anyhow. So the poll is up. Is she an asshole for not wanting to babysit her little brother, who's recently diagnosed with high-functioning Alzheimer's, and getting in trouble with her parents because he got into her purse? Now, if it was coming from my household, You got into somebody's purse, you're dead.
Well, I mean, there's layers here. It's like enter the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then you went into her purse.
Mm-hmm.
Then out of the bag that clearly labeled says "Do not eat,"
Right.
"Do not touch," you did it anyway.
Right.
Technically, the age, like this is very mild autism because this kid clearly understood they fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, I fucked up. All right, I
Mhm.
did the thing I shouldn't have done.
Right.
Got it. Like the 10-year-old, crystal clear on this. So I mean, I think maybe the mild autism's a misdiagnosis, but that's just me.
Right.
But no, I say not the asshole. I think that this is a fucked up situation she has found herself in, and I think her parents overreacted.
And I think it's time she moved.
I think it's time.
Yep.
That I will sincerely agree with. All right.
Right. So the poll is up. All righty. So over to poly advice.
And talking about not moving, living in two places. Is there anybody here who splits their time between partners who live far away from each other? One of my partners received a job offer on the other side of the country. I have in the past daydreamed of living in more than one city in this manner, switching every few months or something. As I'm running over future possibilities, I wanted to ask if anybody has experience with this. No kids. Edit, looking for responses from people who have actually done this, not looking to be told LDRs are hard and I probably can't do it. That's fair enough.
Yeah, because you can do it.
Yeah. And like you did.
Yeah.
Like you now, granted, not different sides of the country.
No.
Different parts of the state, good long drive in between.
Right. It's real simple. You get a duffel bag, you put your clothes in it, you throw it in your car. You have a pre-planned schedule of which home you're going to, preferably for multiple days, with changing events. And you go. You get in your car, you drive to the place, you carry your duffel bag in, you sit down. Hi, honey, I'm home. Do your routine there. A couple days later, you pick up said bag and you do the reverse.
I don't inherently think long distance relationships are a bad thing or that they are impossible and you can't do it.
Yeah.
Like the issues that I've had in long distance relationships, I think would exist regardless.
Right.
Like these were people problems, not distance problems.
Right.
Now, did the distance make it perhaps take longer to identify, or like it contributed?
Right.
But in and of itself, it's doable. Like you have to be comfortable with travel.
Right.
You have to be able to travel.
Right.
Like you have to have that time availability. So if you work from home, if you're, as long as you can cohesively mesh this with your career.
Right.
And you don't have a problem with travel. Like the worst thing that could have happened in one of my long distance relationships would have been if I hated flying.
Right.
Because quite frankly, no, that's not going to work.
Right.
Like I can't, like at the time, there's no way I could have driven from North Carolina to New Hampshire and back and still been a college student.
Right. But if you have a remote job like I did and do, like I could date someone in California. It's quite easy. I hop on a plane, I fly into San Diego because I hate LAX. They pick me up. I'm there for 3 weeks, and then I'm back here for 6.
Yeah. Or vice versa. Any which way.
Or vice versa.
Well, yeah. And Brenda says, but what will you do for a Klondike bar?
Depending on the quality of Klondike. They aren't the same as these.
Alrighty. Also, Shannon, we need animal crackers for the next gathering.
And Sprite.
and Sprite. Everyone forgets the Sprite. Large Sprite. Large. This is where my sister's deal broke down at, guys. We had an argument. She wanted to get me a small. I wanted an upgrade to my terms and conditions. She said no. She got in trouble. But no, I don't think long distance relationships are impossible. I do think some people are overly optimistic that they have a lifestyle that coordinates with long distance relationships. Like if you're a fixed, well, and then sometimes it can work because there was a lot of what I was doing. I had classes 4 days a week. There was a schedule I already had. I may have had a Friday class somewhere in there at one point. But anyway, otherwise, I got up Friday morning. I got on a plane, cheap airfare if you plan ahead. Fly to New Hampshire. I'm there before 4. We go out to dinner. We have a lovely weekend. Monday morning at 8 a.m., I get on a plane. I flew back into Piedmont Triad International, got in my car, drove to campus. I had a class that started at like 1, I think. My life's great as long as I don't, have a misconnection or anything like that. Like, it was no big deal. We got 3 days, 2.5 a week together. Anytime we wanted it. And again, as long as you plan out the airfare, it was cheaper than gas.
But at the same time, when we were dating, or when we were living together in 2 homes instead of 1, it was very easy. I went to Princeton on Wednesday. I stayed till Monday. I came back to Halstead on Monday, and we rode. And then on Wednesday, I'm back up to Princeton. It was running 2 households, but it was very easy to do. And if things come up, we bounce it around. We also talked every day. We communicate. Like, we talk more then than we do now.
Probably, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Shannon's like, just hearing that itinerary made me tired. It wasn't bad. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, the first few times I did it, I did have a moment where it's like, I can't fucking do this. You adjust. Like when I was flying, I mean. The first couple of times, it's exhausting. It's new. It's different. It's more activity. It's going to be different. And it is exhausting. The first few times you adjust and adapt, and it's like, okay, this is what we do now. I swear to God, we broke up, and I didn't know what to do with myself for probably a good 3 months, from Friday night to Monday morning. Like, I had so much energy and nothing to do because. Again, my life had adjusted. Like, my friends went on and did stuff without me on, Friday to Monday. Joe's out of town. I will say, though, I think part of the success of it also includes, like, you have to have 2 fully functional homes.
Yes.
And I really can't stress that enough.
Yes.
I really can't stress that enough. That was probably, in the long distance flying, one of the issues I faced was that my ex was a man-child, and much adult. So cookware was non-existent. Food was scarce in that apartment. Like, his life was built entirely around the idea that I eat out 3 meals a day. Which is great. Whatever, that if that works for you, that's wonderful. The thing that wasn't possible when we first got together was leaving me with the car during the day. Like, I go drop them off at work and then drive back. Because there were some work things. And so if we spent the whole day together, that was great. If they had to work, I was trapped in that apartment by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of your entire life is meant to eat, to not eat or drink. Like, you sleep here.
Right.
That's it. Like, you don't own a can opener. You barely have like a fork, knife, and spoon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fridge is basically a beer cooler.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's like
in your 20s, okay?
Well, and it's like when I was by housing, which is what I call it, it was an adjustment for everyone because I'd hit the door Friday, whatever day I came home to Princeton, like a tornado.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, you got so excited about the house in Princeton, and like you took on so many things.
Yeah, like I lived the whole it was a normal house life.
Yeah, but it was. I will say that sometimes has to be a be careful moment.
Right.
Like, I still struggle with the idea. Like, there was stuff that I was perfectly capable of doing. Was I exhausted doing it because I was doing it in larger quantities for a much longer period? Plus I was going through a death simultaneously. Like falling out of the caregiver role, I'd hit an exhaustion button.
Right.
Of like, oh, thank God I don't have to do that on someone else's time scale now. So yeah, some things were slipping there for a bit. Just because here's the deal. For the better part of 7 years, not the entirety of it, but for the better part, I did 21 loads of laundry a week, ran the dishwasher at least once a day.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to like having to clean up and pick up that house all day long, and cook 3 meals from scratch.
Right.
I was exhausted.
Uh-huh.
Like, no one should do 21 loads of laundry a week. That'll just wipe you.
Right.
And it was like the penalty of being sick too. Like, anytime you got sick, the laundry grew monstrously. Like, just 2 days off with a head cold, you're screwed for the next week and a half.
Right. So when I would hit the door Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday or Friday, one of the two. I would come in and I would start my routine, which is the same routine I do here when I hit the door. I just copied my life.
Yeah. And I do think that does have to be a conversation, though. I will point that out. Like, make sure your partner's going to be up for that or cool with that, however that works. Especially if you're someone that like, no, these are the things I do.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely like, does anyone really mind if someone else does the laundry and the dishes? Not really.
Or the dusting, or the vacuuming, or the watering of plants.
Well, but it also makes, it also makes, for some people, a very big problem. So keep it in mind, like you're going to have things you have to negotiate out in addition to your normal relationship. It worked out for you is what I'm saying.
Right.
Is that you came in prepped and ready to go. I'm going to do laundry and dishes and water plants and whatever else. And I was okay with that.
Right.
I was like, okay, fine, whatever. If I don't have to do laundry, like I was to a life point, if I never had to do laundry again, it would be. So okay, cool, fine, whatever you want to do, I don't care. But it can be an issue. Like there are couples, and and there's Brenda with it. Yes, I know one couple that hates how each other does the laundry. 20 years of complaining. I finally shut up about how the towels are folded.
Yes.
You're wrong, but I've shut up about it.
Yeah, I hotel fold.
Actually, you finally did it right.
Well, again, but at the same time of that, it was multiple things going on. This wasn't like my first trip up there. I took over the house.
Yeah,
this was like a month of me living there, half time.
Yeah, and I had hit tilt. Like that last 2 weeks of my grandmother's life was a marathon, which was exhausting. And then on top, like as the cherry on top of that 7 years, I was done. I was toast. But yeah, no, there were a lot of things that had slipped that I didn't have a give a shit button anymore.
Right. I come in, I don't remember what it was. I remember what it was because it was a comedical fight with you. I come in, I have my lunchbox that's got leftover lunch in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had brought up something that I was wanting to continue eating. And I opened the refrigerator, and there's a Wendy's bag that I saw last week. There's a takeout box from Outback that I saw last week. Like, these are not new items.
They could have been.
No, they
I'm
weren't.
a little bit repetitive.
And then I look over, and the dishes from last time I was
like
there,
when you left,
were still in the sink in the same
when
wall.
you got back. Yeah. And I want to say I was kind of living my freedom. Like, I don't have to do this right now.
Right.
Because I was pushing so hard every day to make sure the dishes were done, make sure the house stays clean, make sure that she's taken care of, make sure I can stay on the laundry, because God forbid, that's a whole nightmare. And just all these things. And I had this moment after she passed, and it took a few minutes to kick in, but where it was like, I don't have to do this anymore. This isn't my treadmill. I don't have to run on it.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's not to discount what you were doing that at all.
Right. But, and the other thing there was you had started studying for your A+ and doing PT.
I was studying for the A+ exam, and I was studying for the ham radio license.
Right. And I'm like...
We're trying to.
Like, it was bad timing for both of those, but at the same time, so that's when I was like, okay, one, I'm bored. Like, there's only so many things that I can do on my own within the own, or,
Well, yeah. And I'm still going into, like, I needed a nap. Like, I was exhausted. I mean, literally physically drained, exhausted. Like, she passed, and I ran energy for, I don't know, maybe the month that you're talking about.
Right.
And then it's like I ran out of gas on the side of the road, man. It was just like, I can't do all this anymore.
Right.
Like, and I don't have to.
Right.
So yeah, that was about the point you started taking over on things, which was again fine. And needed. Like, I'm not saying it was unnecessary. It was needed. I get it. But I was also just having this moment of like, the dishes in the sink don't fucking matter anymore.
They do when they grow, honey. They do when they grow.
They weren't growing.
The water
I
was
to water them
4 days long.
But no, it was I was just maxed out. So I was doing a lot of sleeping. I probably more self-care than I had ever imagined doing. Because again, it's the caregiver problem. Everyone tells you to take care of yourself. Got to put that oxygen mask on first before you try to put on someone else's. Tell me how. No one else. I do not know a single caregiver who knows how to fuck to do this. Like, you tell us this, we don't know what the fuck you're talking about. We've never figured this out. And what basically happens is the person we're taking care of dies, and suddenly, we can self-care again.
Right.
And it goes a little extreme, I will say. It does.
Yeah. So with all that, it was quite interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then it became routine, and then I think, I don't know, it took you about a month to recognize that, like, no, I hit the door running.
Yeah, which was fine. And it only took me like another, I don't know, how many years was it to train you how to fold towels?
I don't know.
He's still so mad about the towels. We argued about that. I'm teasing.
I know.
There are no boundaries.
Right. But, you know, at the same time, you know, it was like, this is our life. You know, when he finally noticed and he's like, are you mad? Like, do you not want to come here because, you know, the house is dirty or whatnot? And I looked at him and I said, excuse me? Like, I think you guys had gotten the energy up to try to clean the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it was already done.
Yeah, it's one of the, again, it's that, like, there's, and every caregiver does this. I don't care who you are. You go through this period of it doesn't fucking matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a valley crater you kind of hit for a while, and then one day it's like you become human again.
Right.
And like all the human lights come on, and you're like, oh my God, I've got to do laundry and dishes. And who did the fucking laundry?
Right.
Who did the dishes? Like, I don't really think
Why is the vacuum
for a
full?
while.
That's what the fight was over, was the damn vacuum.
Yeah, like why didn't you empty the vacuum?
Because I don't know how. Buy me a real one.
Leave my vacuum alone. You still love it.
I still love it, but again, it's not a real vacuum.
Still don't know how to empty it.
I do too. I just don't empty it around you because it pisses your allergies off.
Oh, Shannon's with me. I fold them into thirds. So now here's my system. It's you take and on the long seam, you fold the two short seams together, and then third, half.
Mm-mm.
That's my system. He like, we argued. It's,
yeah.
I find it funny. It's one of those things.
Yeah, because then you have to unfold it and refold it to put it on the rack.
Well, yes, but it fits beautifully on the shelf in two columns.
It may fit lovely on the shelf, but it sucks on the towel rack. It's easier if you just hotel fold. It fits on the rack and it fits on the shelf.
Okay, so Brenda goes for they are folded and fit into the cabinet. So she's one of those like crammers.
Yeah.
Like fold it in a shape, cram it in there, shove them all to the wall, shove in the next line.
Right.
I've seen this. I get you. It works.
Right. But anyhow, so, you know, you'll work it out. My best recommendation is buy good duffel bags. Good duffel bags, ones that'll fit everything. Or
Okay.
if it's so long distance, buy 2 wardrobes. Because it got to the point I had 2 wardrobes.
I'm horrified, Shannon. No! She agrees with you, I think.
Okay.
Well, he quarters the towels.
No, I go in, fold half, fold half.
Yeah. Yeah, he quarters it. Well,
Right.
it's eighths. Let's call it eighths.
Yeah.
Because basically you fold it in half to make the square, and then where I would third it and then fold it in half, he folds it in half, folds it in half.
Right.
I just saved my coffee mug.
Yay.
It's empty, but I reacted like it was
Right.
full. Oh, Brenda does seriously thirds widthwise, then half and half lengthwise fits on my show. Exactly. Like, you're doing it, but you're doing it different.
Right.
Like, she's doing the thirds first
Mm-hmm.
and then half.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Shannon's like, I'm going to send pictures later.
I may do a video on it, but anyhow.
We've created a thing. Anyway, moving on. Am
Moving
I an
on.
asshole?
Now, we gave advice for if you're the moving partner. What about if you're the stable partner?
Oh, valid point. Valid point. If you are the stable partner, I do think you, that can sometimes be harder
Mm-hmm.
because you have this on off. Like you have the period when they're there and you have the period where they're not there. I do think as the stable partner, as the one that stays in place, stay, good partner, you do have to be comfortable with that time.
Mm-hmm.
That and try not to be abusive of it. Like I was coming off of caregiving, I was a little abusive, but within reason. That like you don't just stop being like you become a trash monster while they're gone. Like
Right.
no one wants to walk into that. That it looks like they left you through a kegger every single day, and then they return.
Right.
Like don't do that. Like still be able to function independently. Is probably one of the biggest parts of that that helps contribute to this one situation continuing. And two, to the idea that like you're not negatively impacted when they're gone.
Right.
So I'd say that's a big part of that. I think you also have to be really good at balancing your time so that you're not just like, the dog sitting beside the door waiting for mommy to come home from work.
Yeah.
Like you have to have your own life that works with this outside of them being.
Right.
Like if all you're doing is waiting by the door for their next return, that's not a really good plan. If this is a flyable situation, not a drivable, you may want to consider your vehicular arrangement. At least access somehow to a vehicle, whether that's taking you to work, maybe having an older second vehicle, like or borrowing a vehicle, something. So they're not necessarily just stuck there.
Right.
Like they need the ability to also integrate with that community, like do their own shopping, do their own whatever they're doing while they're there. Whatever that may entail. Without necessarily having to consider that on their own.
Right. And they're not visiting.
Yeah, they're not a visitor. Not a visitor.
Like name on the lease, key in their pocket.
Well, definitely key in their pocket. That's their home. They live there.
Right.
Name on lease can sometimes be negotiable.
Right.
Like, is that really the case? Like, should they assume responsibility for that rental? Like, and that's a serious consideration.
Right. And that'll be a debate on where your finances are at. What I mean by that is where the relationship finances are at. If it's, 50-50, then it's 50-50.
Yeah, or whatever version that takes.
Right.
Like, I think we should always put 50-50 in air quotes because it's not 50-50, it's an equal, like, equity.
Right.
Like, if you're only there half the time,
right,
and you're co-partnered with someone else the other half of the time, then even if everyone makes the same exact amount of money,
right,
I think you only owe each space 25-25, which is 50-50, but isn't.
Especially if there's another, so like if you complicate this even more, like you're rotating off somebody.
Oh yeah. If that ends up being like, okay, so you have the like two stable partners, the
two anchors
that stay a good partner, and they are in more than one relationship.
Right.
So there's someone coming in and out.
Right.
Like there's a consistent, someone's already always there, but they swap.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, oh, this one goes off and goes home, and this one comes from their home, and then back and forth.
Right.
If you're doing that, then yeah, that changes the percentages. Because that's a whole other person.
Right.
So that may be 12 and a half, 75.
Right. No.
So,
I would go that. I go 25, 25, 50.
$25, 50.
The anchor pays 50.
Right.
Partner A pays 25%.
Okay.
Partner B pays 25%.
Well, see, but that's what I was saying before, is if you have two stable partners,
right,
and you're going between them,
right,
then I think it's 25, 25.
Right. But if anchor A
75, 75. But now if you're swapping out with yet another person and that's also their space, I think that cuts it to 12 and a half.
See, but I don't.
They're getting the same part-time.
They're getting, like, if they're there, like if one is there for 2 weeks a month and the other one there is for the other 2 weeks a month, that's 25, 25.
Okay.
And primary, anchor partner pays the 50% because they're there 100% of the time.
Well, fair enough. I think the anchor partner is at least at full 50.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this is a really screwy situation.
Right. Yeah, but the whole point there is you're not a guest. Pay something to the bills. Stop being a douche.
Yeah, fair enough. And it may not be direct. It may not be like, here's my 25%. But work that out. Make sure that that's a thing. Like, you contribute to the household. It is recognized.
Right. Important for being recognized. All right, let's see if you're the asshole this week.
Am I the asshole?
No, you're not the asshole for not wanting to babysit your baby brother who can't keep his ass out of your purse.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Right. All right, guys. We will see you next week. Well, Sunday, actually.
Yes. We'll see you Sunday.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've got a quick little thank you.
Yes.
All right. So, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, and Devin. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.